Hello and welcome. This is Microsoft Flight Simulator, and today I would like to talk to you about go-arounds. In this video I would really like to discuss with you when to perform a go-around, what is the correct procedure, and then we'll be looking at the difference between a go-around, a soft go-around and a discontinued approach. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so when do we actually initiate a go-around? Well, the basic idea is that whenever you, as the pilot, think that there is a compromise to safety and that there's no guarantee that the remainder of the approach and the landing can be conducted in a safe manner, then you must perform a go-around. Now, there are certain callouts in the cockpit that will initiate an immediate automatic go-around. These are certain GPWS commands such as too low gear, too low flaps. Wind shear, of course, will initiate a go-around. If you have a TCAS warning, that will also initiate an immediate go-around. So anything like that. The other thing that will initiate a go-around is if your approach is not stable. Again, this is company specific. In my company, at 1,000 feet above ground level, we perform a check, and that check we look at everything that is safety related. Are we in the landing configuration? Are we at the correct speed? Are the engines at an acceptable state? So idle is usually not an acceptable state. Are we on track? Is the altitude acceptable? If you're on an ILS, are we within the limits, which is half scale deflection? What about the wind? What does the wind look like at the moment? Are we above any limitations, etc., etc.? So all these things are looked at, and if we are happy, then we continue the approach. If any one of those things is not 100%, you must perform a go-around. The rule at most airlines is that if you perform a go-around, nobody is going to ask you about it, really. At my company, we don't even have to write a report. However, if you land an aircraft after an approach where you should have done a go-around, that is usually a problem. Don't forget, modern aircraft like the Airbus have flight data monitoring on board. That means they send all the data of everything that happens immediately to the company, and if anything gets flagged up, the Airbus will tell your company about it before you even arrive at the gate. So if you land, let's say outside the touchdown zone, so you perform a long landing, by the time you're at the gate, the company will know about it because the Airbus will have told them. So the golden rule is, if you're not happy, just go around. It is usually the safer option and is not a very dramatic procedure. I've done it many times in the real world, and there's really not much to it. Okay, as we make our way to our final approach fix for the ILS and our first go-around, let's talk about go-around near the ground. These are actually quite tricky maneuvers, and there's a few things you need to consider. First of all, if you're on the ground and you have selected your reverse thrust, go-arounds are forbidden. No more go-arounds after the reverse thrust has been selected. This is very important. Secondly, if you're close to the ground and in the flare, the engines will be at idle. So it's gonna take them a while to spool up. This can also happen, actually has happened to me, where we performed the go-around whilst already in the flare. So be very careful with the pitch. Don't just pull the nose up, because the aircraft is still descending and there's a real chance that you end up with a tail strike. Now, the standard procedure on the Airbus is that the call out is go around flaps. The colleague retracts the flaps by one step. You then follow the flight director in the go around, make all the call outs on the FMA that you see. Then your colleague says positive climb and you respond with gear up, and then the procedure is basically complete. However, if you're very close to the ground, it is usually not a bad idea to wait a few seconds before you retract that one step of flaps. This is out of some experiences some Airbus operators had, especially with the A321, where they retracted the flaps, they pulled up, the flaps went up, the aircraft was in a low energy state, started slamming into the runway, and one of them actually had a really bad tail strike. The aircraft was AOG for, I believe, 3 months. So just think about these things before you initiate a go around at a very low altitude. Okay, so we are flying into Munich. Our runway is 26 left. I found this old chart here. I always use my EFB when I fly in the sim. I can't film it though because it has some company relevant information that is not for the public eye. So I just googled this chart here. It's really not up to date, but it's good enough. So as you can see, we'll be flying the ILS. The inbound track is 262. We have a 3-degree glide. And then in case of go around, we fly briefly straight ahead and then we perform a turn to the left, which makes sense because we have a parallel runway up here in the north, and the last thing you want to do is turn north and fly into the departure traffic. So we're going to head south and we'll be flying to this point here. Munich doesn't exist anymore. This point is now called Ottersberg, Oscar Tango Tango, but the rest is the same, and we'll be climbing to 5,000 feet. So that is our go-round procedure. You would check this before top of descent and cross-check it with what you have on your aircraft. Okay, so here we are on the ILS. Runway 26 left is right ahead of us. We're just passing 2,600 feet. We are in the full landing configuration. We've read the checklist, ECAM memo landing no blue. Everything is good, but for whatever reason, ATC now asks us to perform a go-around. So all you have to do, I'll leave the autopilot on so I can actually talk to you. Go-around flaps. Retract 1 flap, call out Mantoga, SRS, go around track, positive climb, gear up. And with that, the procedure is already completed. Okay, so the aircraft is now leveling off at 5,000 feet and we're in nav mode. If this for whatever reason doesn't engage, simply push on the heading button, then you'll be in nav mode, and you can see the go around track has now turned from blue to green and has now become the track that the aircraft will fly. So let's say you've done a go around and now ATC tells you you can come back for a landing. There are really only 2 things to do. You need to first of all activate the approach phase here, and then of course set up the FCU for the approach again. And that's it, and then you're ready to come back in for the approach. Okay, I'm not going to be flying the whole procedure here. ATC has just told us to fly heading of 085 to descend to 3,000 feet. So all I have to do now is activate the approach phase. You might want to do the approach checklist again, and that's it. We are ready for our next approach. Very nice and easy. Okay, so next I want to show you the soft go around. Soft go around is a technique that you can use in the CEO. On the Neo, it's actually a fully functional feature. The idea is that we are still very close to the go around altitude. Go around altitude is 5,000 feet. We're just descending through 4,000. And let's say at 3,500 feet we are being asked to perform a go-around. Now we could just do the standard procedure, but the aircraft would shoot up, would accelerate very quickly, and there's a real danger that we will bust the 5,000 feet. So instead what you do, you engage toga by moving the thrust levers into the toga detent, but then immediately put them back into the climb detent. This is slightly different to the Neo. I'm just going to talk about the CEO now. It's a technique you can use. It will automatically engage the go around track, so it will help you with the workload with that, but you don't have to worry too much about having a level bust. So we need to do a go around now. We're still fairly close to the 5,000 feet. Go around, flaps, and we go back into climb. There it is. So we're in the toga mode. Push that. nav, all good. We don't get the full toga power, so as you can see the acceleration is much slower. Flaps 1. And we can already go to flap 0 just to be safe. And this is a lot more relaxed. And the aircraft will still fly the entire go-round procedure. On the Neo, like I said, this is a full procedure. Works a bit different. There is actually a software that will do this automatically for you. But as a technique, it can actually work on the CEO as well. And it's actually recommended if you're very close to the go-round altitude. Gives you a bit more breathing space, a bit more time. Okay, we're not gonna be flying this. Heading ATC tells us to come back and to try yet another approach. Okay, and as we turn in for the next approach, let's talk about something called cancelled approach. So cancelled approach is when you have to abort the approach when you're at or above the go-round altitude. So later on we'll just pretend the go-round altitude here in Munich is 3000 feet and we'll be on the ILS at 4000 feet, and ATC will tell us that there's an aircraft on the runway, they have a problem, they can't get off the runway, go around. Now obviously if you would go into toga, you'll be above the go-round altitude, so that wouldn't work. So instead the procedure is cancel approach, and all you do is you click the approach button here and that will cancel the approach. The aircraft will revert into some basic modes, and then you essentially descend down to the go-round altitude and manually follow the go-round track. Few disadvantages with that, one of them being that first of all the aircraft is not automatically following the go-round track. You're gonna have to do this with the nav page. And secondly, because the aircraft never goes into the toga mode, when you come back there's a bit more workload in order to get the aircraft back onto the approach. But apart from that, it's actually a fairly simple procedure. I've actually never used it in the real world, but we train it in the simulator. I think it's quite useful, and yeah, so let's see if I can do it. Can't remember the last time I tried this. Okay, we're on the approach. We are about 8 miles out. We are 116 knots, just passing 4000 feet. The go-around altitude is 3000 feet and we are being told to go around. So like I said before, the correct call out is cancel approach. So now you can see we are in basic modes, vertical speed heading. So you keep that vertical speed, it will intercept the 3000 feet, which is what we want. If we would do a go around, we would be carrying on anyway, so for the moment there's not much we have to do. We just carry on as it is. But of course this track here is not something the aircraft is gonna do on its own. It depends on how this is coded. If there would be a point here, you could simply go to direct to and put in that point, and then the aircraft would string up the rest afterwards. So there you go. There was a point here, and now you can see the aircraft has gone into nav mode and it's now gonna fly the go around. And this is actually quite relaxed. We're still at 160 knots. We're now leveling off at 3000 feet. If you want to, you can speed up to clean up the aircraft. And that's how you do a discontinued approach. Okay, and that brings us to the end of this short video. I hope there was something you learned today. That would be really nice. We're actually gonna be landing now. Took off with 6 tons of fuel. We now have 4 tons, so we just burned 2 tons of fuel doing all of this. Very nice. Yeah, let's see if I can land this thing. I'm actually not that great at landing in the simulator, but let's see how it goes. In any case, thank you very much for watching. and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Until then, all the best. Bye bye.
100, 70, 40, 30, 5,
Come on.
restart,
Spoilers, reverse green, decel. Manual braking. Phew.